Good morning, YouTube. Hope you guys are doing well today. I wanted to do some live streaming today instead of releasing a pre-recorded video, which is what I usually do here in the channel, for two reasons. One is I really want to make sure you guys are aware that Sync Up is just 2 weeks away. It's kind of crazy how fast that sort of snuck up on me, even though I've been really behind the scenes planning and working on this thing for a long time. It's still amazing that it's just 2 weeks away now. But also, I know that I need to really practice speaking for longer periods of time because when Sync Up happens, which is, by the way, June 3rd and 4th, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking, not just during the event, but also in between. And we have a dinner scheduled for Saturday night, and we're going to be having lunches and all kinds of stuff. So I know that my voice tends to give out fairly quickly. So this is kind of also training for me. So I'm going to try to stream as long as I can before I start to feel that that soreness kind of creeping into my voice. So this is sort of my training for the Olympics, so to speak. But I wanted to just talk to you guys about Sync Up. Also let you guys know that we have basically sold out of all of our in-person tickets. So those are completely gone now, and we are not going to be offering those anymore. So sorry for those of you that were potentially interested in joining us in person. Those are just gone now. I decided to cap that at around 50 tickets. So those are all done. We don't have any more available there, but we still do have virtual tickets. So virtual tickets is basically the last way that you can still participate with this event, and it's still an amazing way to participate with the event because if you get the Virtual Plus ticket, you can actually submit your music to any one of the music library CEOs that are listed here that you see on your screen. The only exception would be Carlos. Carlos is with Universal Music. He's not obviously the CEO of Universal, and he's not in charge of accepting new music from producers. He's actually in charge of developing new business. He's actually now the director of new business with production music libraries that are associated with Universal Music. So he's going to give us some great insights, but he's not somebody that we can submit our music to. But for all these other gentlemen, these other five that are here, you will definitely be able to submit your music directly to them through a private submission link that I'm going to provide to you. And not only can you submit to them, of course, submitting to libraries, anybody can do that. But this will actually give you a guarantee that they will for sure listen to your music. That's actually what I've built into their contracts that they have decided to agree upon and come be a part of Sync Up. So once you guys come to the event or stream it, obviously most of you guys are going to be streaming it. I will send out a link to all of you guys that get a Virtual Plus ticket and those of you that are in person. And you'll basically have from the day the event starts, June 3rd, up until the following Friday, which I think is June, I want to say it's June 11th. You'll basically have a full week to submit your music to one or multiple CEOs if you'd like to, but just know that you do need to only submit this like one type of music or let's say one album to one CEO. So you cannot just copy and paste the same album to all five and say, hey, let's see who likes my music and gets back to me. I'm going to obviously filter through all of the submissions. And so I will see any duplicate submissions and I will just cancel your submission entirely. Reason being, hopefully it's obvious if you don't know, if you submit the same music to all of these different gentlemen, all these different libraries, and just hope that something's going to stick. Well, what if two of them want your music? Well, they're going to come back to you and they're all looking for exclusive agreements. I can tell you that for sure. They're all going to ask for an exclusive licensing agreement from you. So you can't send your music to two of them at the same time. So if two of them say yes and they come back to you and you have to now decide which one you work with, well, you're going to kind of piss off one of them. And I do not want to be making music library CEOs mad as being a part of this event. That is definitely not my intention, and that will ensure that they probably don't want to work with us again and be a part of any kind of a meetup or an in-person event like this in the future, or even if we just do virtual ones in the future. So I will be I will be overseeing the entire submission process. So just know that if you have your album ready to go, part of what Sync Up is going to provide for you, especially those of you that can join us virtually, is you get to interact with these gentlemen, ask them questions, and kind of get to know their backstory, how they started their libraries, what kind of clients they serve, what kind of music that they're interested in. These are the type of questions that definitely, those of you that are going to be there in person, I'm going to prioritize all of your questions first. But I think we'll have some extra time. So for those of you that do stream the event live, you can ask them follow-up questions as well. Any questions that we didn't cover in the session, I will go ahead and try to filter and get through some of those questions as well through the live chat feature. So that's going to be an amazing opportunity for some of you guys to just connect with some of these people that feel like they might be a million miles away right now. You've never maybe got accepted to a library, maybe never communicated with these people. I know that's how I felt in the beginning, other than I knew one person that owned a little catalog, but these other libraries and all these other people in the industry felt like they were a million miles miles away, and they would never take me seriously. So I had a lot of self-defeating talk kind of going on internally. Well, I hope with what Sync Edge, or not Sync Edge, what Sync Up is going to provide for you, whether you're in person or virtually attending, is it'll kind of pull back the curtain for you. And so you'll get to see these people as real human beings that have, families and have mortgages and are just trying to sort of survive and figure out how to adapt in this industry as much as we are, right? And they are definitely our partners. They are somebody they're very valuable to us. They're people that we really want to have positive, productive working relationships with. And my goal with Sync Up is basically to kind of create a little bit more of a bridge between this music library world and music composer world. Because oftentimes, as you guys know, if you've been submitting your music to libraries over the years, getting no response or, getting a sort of thanks, but we're not accepting new submissions, that kind of response, it's frustrating because it's like, well, what does that mean? Did you not like my music? Should I change something? All those kind of questions obviously start to swirl around in the submission process. So I'm hoping with just some sort of direct common, conversation between us and these guys, we can start to get a little bit more clarity on what they're looking for, what makes their lives easier, what makes their lives harder, right? We want to make sure that we are not adding problems to these gentlemen's lives. We really don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we are coming with that service mindset so that we are standing out from the competition of all the other producers and music makers that are probably just spamming a lot of these companies, throwing stuff out there, seeing what sticks. That's really not the intelligent way to go about in this industry. That's certainly not the professional way. So we're going to make sure that we don't do that with Sync Up, and you're going to have an insider access to that. I want to also let you guys know, I've decided to add one new presentation to our schedule here, and that is this AI Proof Your Music. So this is going to be coming from me. I'm actually putting this one together, and this is going to be the first time that I've essentially kind of put together a sort of, I feel like it's not a completely comprehensive, in-depth presentation, but it's definitely going to be an overview of, first of all, things that you need to stop doing now, right? As AI text to music models start to become, more developed and more advanced, as the time goes on, they're going to get better and better and better. And I've definitely already been diving into the Google Music LM model. That's the one that I put up my video about a week ago, showing you guys just like literally just I turned on my camera and started playing with it for the first time. I had never seen what it could do, never done it myself. So, diving into it a little bit more, I'm starting to realize, okay, it can do some things decently, but it can not do some other things decently. And so I want to make sure that as I am trying to provide you guys with educational resources here and videos and content, that we need to kind of start to think about this more seriously in terms of staying ahead of the curve. Now, some of this is going to be new. Some of the stuff I'm going to tell you guys to basically stop doing. It's going to be some new advice that I've never given out before. So that's going to be very relevant and helpful. There's also going to be some things you need to start doing. And there's going to be some advice in there that I've never recommended you guys do. So it's going to be some new content essentially. So I had to kind of upgrade my thinking and my sort of go-to bits of advice that have worked for me in my career over the years. Some of them got to be altered. So you're going to get those in that presentation. But what's really interesting, as I was kind of going through and building this, I'm in the middle of basically building this presentation right now, is I realized that a lot of the advice I have been giving you guys for six plus years, I guess now, through my channel and in Sync Academy, a lot of it's still extremely relevant, and if not more relevant now than it ever was before. I didn't even actually think about that. I was actually going back and watching some of my older tutorials, some of the stuff that I did at the very beginning of starting, Sync My Music, before I even had Sync Academy. I just had the Syndicate. And I realized a lot of those old tutorials that I put together are very, very relevant in terms of adding human emotion, human dynamics, human transitions, and a lot of sort of high quality production elements that don't take tons and tons of time. I always say it's about 7 to 10% extra, right? You just basically, instead of just throwing on some strings on your track and saying, hey, I've got an orchestral element now, take that extra 10%, add some dynamics to those strings, give it like a lifelike performance, dial in a little bit of a better reverb or a space sound around your strings to kind of add a little bit more of a human recorded element to it. Those little touches actually make all the difference in terms of making sure that your tracks stand out. So a lot of the advice that, if you've been following me for many years, that advice will pay off for you in the future, because I'm noticing that a lot of these AI models cannot do a lot of these smaller touches, these smaller kind of human-like touches. Because let's be realistic, we're not really recording a lot of live music anymore. Even me, I used to record all of my guitars, you plug them in and track it all out, right? And I really can't remember the last time that I did that. I'm just now much more in love with MIDI guitars, because they still sound great. They sound amazing. They're so much more editable. I can change things. If I don't like a riff after a little while, I can kind of mess with stuff. That might not be for everybody. Some other producers feel like they want to just record something and move on to the next thing. That's fine. My creative process is a little more fluid. I kind of move forward for a bit and then I get stuck and I feel like I want to change something, or some part about this riff doesn't work anymore. I have to change it so it kind of better pays off based on now what this new verse riff is. So having MIDI instruments in general for me has just been, it's unlocked a lot more creativity for me, and it's actually just sped up my process much more. So I'm actually into that stuff, but that doesn't mean that I can just sort of keep the same velocity, right? Or just kind of have a heavy-handed performance that sounds very robotic and stiff. I've got to be very mindful about how I perform my MIDI performances, if I'm going to quantize stuff, how I quantize that, if I'm going to introduce different velocities and different kind of dynamics within a performance. How do I do it so that it feels more human, less robotic, less performed like a MIDI keyboard? Because that's really the death of most production music, is you're kind of stacking in a bunch of interesting, cool sounds and instruments, but it's all kind of performed the same way because it's all being performed through a MIDI keyboard. So you kind of get that sort of robotic, stiff sound, and that's what makes it sound really like an AI machine basically is generating your music, and that is going to be death for your music licensing career. So you don't want to do that. So I think with this presentation, it's going to give you guys a sort of 10,000 foot view on where you need to start going now, even though I'm very aware that these AI models are not creating really much that's really impressive, certainly not competitive with us. It's certainly not going to be a threat to us right now. But I do think the very unwise take on all of this is to just assume that that'll just move on forever, that they'll never get better and they'll never improve. The bit rate will never get better. They'll never be able to incorporate, guitars and strings and vocals and stuff. I think we can all see that that's going to happen at some point. We just don't know when in the future. So the wise move right now in the middle of 2023 is to start making some changes to our approach so that we're not sitting there doing the same old, relying a lot on loops, relying a lot on pre-made stuff, and almost acting like an AI, like loop stacking machine ourselves, and then being blindsided by some amazing technology or some new stock library that comes out and goes like, all of our music is made by AI and it's way cheaper and you can come get all your music here, right? So you don't want to be sort of that last person kind of like now having to struggle to keep up with it. Like I've made this analogy before in some of my previous videos. You want to be, especially now as the AI technology kind of creeps into our world more and more, is we want to be the premium organic section of a lot of these companies' catalogs, right? We don't want to be the guy that's just making the stock whatever. Okay, it's serving a purpose, but it's just kind of like background, not really interesting, kind of stiff sounding music. You can, but you are definitely going to see and feel a lot more AI competition for that business very, very quickly. So I see what's going to be happening is a large chunk of that kind of functional, not so human-like kind of music being taken over by a lot of AI models. And I think what will happen is you'll have now an organic human-created section of music that'll be much more, it's going to increase in its value because it'll become much more rare, and a lot of producers are going to get squeezed out of the marketplace because of this, and only the producers that can essentially up their game, and start creating a little bit more of that human-like dynamic emotion into their tracks, and just higher quality music in general. There's going to be a smaller number of them, but I think what they're going to see is larger opportunities, bigger opportunities, and less competition between themselves because there's just going to be a smaller number of people that can even do that. And I do think that these are the people that not only will up their games with their current, tools and skills and DAWs that we use, but they will be the ones embracing AI technology and going, hey, what can I do to streamline my productivity to like basically offload a lot of the busy work, a lot of the stuff I don't like doing, but stuff that will allow me to become even more creative and produce even more high quality content, right? So that's kind of where I see the future of our industry going. When it's all going to take place, that's kind of anybody's guess. But I don't think there's any reason to wait any longer. I think we've seen enough AI music technology as of today, for me at least, to say it's time to take it serious. And that's why I kind of started to focus a lot of my channel on this stuff, is because I was like, I don't want to be the last person, kind of burying my head in the sand and pretending that it's not really a big deal and thinking, oh, it'll never get as good as us or whatever. I felt like I was kind of doing that for a long time, probably out of fear, I guess, just not wanting to accept that there's going to be a big kind of scary change coming into our world soon. And as soon as it kind of dawned on me that like ignoring that technology for as long as I did was not a wise move and it's really time to play catch up, Once I kind of went through that sort of, wall of fear, I realized on the other end of it, it's not anything to really be that freaked out about. I really do think it's going to be challenging, and there's going to be some, obviously some aspects of it that we don't like, and it's going to be really, sort of negatively impacting our industry. But I do think it's sort of an opportunity for us to up our game and to up our craft and become even better at what we already do. So if you can see it that way, you will be energized by all of this. Okay, so that's the spirit of what I'm going to be doing at Sync Up, and why I'm going to be presenting this presentation at Sync Up. And don't worry, this is not turning into the AI Sync conference. Okay, I know I had a couple of people that were like worried. They already bought their ticket and they're like, oh great, like Jesse's now talking just about AI. Is Sync Up just going to be an AI conference? No, it's really not going to be just an AI conference, but it is going to be a presence there. Okay. When I first was organizing, Sync Up back in November, December of last year, AI wasn't on my radar. So obviously it wasn't one of the bigger topics I wanted to cover. And now it's obviously becoming much more interesting and much more of a person in the room, so to speak, that we really need to start talking about. So it will come up. Okay. So, I'm sorry if some of you don't want me to talk about it. I can't not talk about it, okay? It's just going to be something that is going to come up. But don't worry, we're not going to talk about it every single panel. It's not going to come up in every single presentation, right? So there's basically two main presentations that essentially will focus on it. Trevor, that'll join us on the second day on Sunday. We'll talk about it, and then I will talk about it as well on that Sunday. So if you're not interested in that, you can definitely just not watch that part of the live stream if you don't want to, and that's totally cool. And I definitely will ask the CEOs. This is what's going to be happening on Saturday here. This is really one of the main panels of the entire event, where we have all the CEOs in one room. I will ask them about AI. I'm going to ask them about their perspective. And I think most of you guys are going to want to know this. Like, if you've been following my channel, you know that what happened recently was Pond 5 and Audio Jungle are now allowing AI models to come in and train on their entire catalog. Don't you want to ask these music library CEOs if any AI models have come to them and asked them, or any AI companies, to say, hey, do you mind if we train off of your music? And if they haven't yet, I really want to know, what do the CEOs think of that kind of a proposition? Would they be open to it? Are they for AI models training on their music? Are they against it? What is their concern with that? I'm just really curious what these gentlemen think in terms of where they see the future of this technology. I actually just completed a really cool interview with a Pond 5 representative, and actually I will be, maybe I shouldn't speak. I won't give you the date, but I hope, as long as our little email exchange goes well, which I don't see any reason why it won't. I hopefully will be releasing that this Friday. I guess I said I wasn't going to say a date, but anyways, whatever. Hopefully, if all goes well, I should release that this Friday. So I was able to at least get somebody from Pond 5 to come in and talk to me, and I asked them these direct questions about, here's what a lot of Pond 5 and stock music licensing composers are worried about. Like, they might be a little, obviously grateful for the new income, but of course the big question is, what's going to happen with all of this data with these AI models once they've trained? Like, so I basically just asked them these questions directly. I said, are you guys concerned about it? How do you respond to these concerns? Because it's not only going to be competition potentially for the composers in your catalog, but it's competition for yourself. Like, you train these AI models to create their own music. Suddenly, a stock licensing site like Pond 5 or Audio Jungle now has new competitors. And these competitors are single algorithms, essentially, from a single company that can generate maybe high quality music, or at least good enough, right? Stock licensing kind of background music for YouTube videos, social media, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. So I asked the Pond 5 representative all about this, and he gave his answers. And I'm going to basically kind of put it out to you guys. You guys can obviously hear it for yourself. I'm not going to try to color it one way or the other. You guys can decide, whether you understand, appreciate, agree or disagree with what he was saying. But again, I want to also make sure, I've had a couple of conversations with a few of you guys on my channel that you can disagree. You can say whatever you want about any of these topics, because they're obviously interesting. They're challenging. They're kind of, the sort of hot topic right now. But what I don't tolerate is disrespectful comments on my channel. So if you assume negative intentions on somebody else, like you're trying to mind read and you're like, well, this person just wants to screw us over, you're blocked. I'll just block you. I'm not interested in those kind of conversations. If you come in just overly critical with nothing really positive or interesting, or like a specific challenge, or you're just kind of like sort of, I'm blanking on what it is, or you're just like name calling, essentially, like, what is that? What is that in I didn't pay attention in logic class. Ad hominem, right? When you're just kind of calling somebody something or using a name, labeling them something negative, but really not talking about their points of view or saying, hey, you might have not considered X, Y, and Z. Let me try to educate you on that. If you're not coming to the table with something productive, bye-bye. You're not a part of this channel. I'm not interested in having that. There's only so many hours in the day, and this is already challenging enough. We don't need to be eating at each other here and bickering with each other in an unproductive way. That's not what this is about. Again, disagree, talk about what you don't like about it, maybe help educate myself or our guests maybe on something they're not thinking about, or just, hey, share your opinion. You might totally just disagree and feel like, I just don't feel that way. Totally cool. I want you guys to do that. I really do encourage that. I'm just saying, be respectful about it, okay? So as long as it's respectful, I really want to keep those comments and all those cool things going on. So anyway, so this is our going back to Sync Up. We have this cool thing coming on June 3rd and 4th, and as I said before, all the in-person tickets are gone, so we're not going to do any of those, but we still do have virtual tickets, but there is a limit to how many virtual plus tickets I'm going to make available, okay? So let me just talk about that real quick. So virtually, you can stream this entire event. You can watch it as we do it live. June 3rd and June 4th, Saturday and Sunday, basically 2 weeks from today. And you can buy your virtual ticket. We have unlimited virtual tickets, so it doesn't matter. You can basically, I will probably put a cutoff date on probably the Thursday before, maybe the Friday before, but probably Thursday, because I don't want to have people signing up literally that morning where I have to kind of add your email to the email where I'm going to be sending you guys the private streaming link. I'm not going to be handling that while I'm kind of starting the event. So we're going to cut it off. I'll decide when I'm going to do that. But if you want to get a virtual ticket, get it today. Don't wait until this cutoff point where you kind of miss out on this whole thing. But there is going to be a limit. So we are going to cap the Virtual Plus tickets at 20. So the Virtual Plus tickets are the ones where you can stream the entire event, watch it live, also watch it afterwards. If you can't make the entire thing, the link will be available for you guys to watch afterwards. But if you want to submit your music to these library CEOs and have a guarantee that they will listen to it through this private link that I'm going to create for you guys, we're only going to allow 20 more of you guys to do that. So reason for that is we're going to have a lot of you guys. We've already got, I think, 50, maybe 60 Virtual Plus tickets, not to mention we have about 50 people showing up in person. So that's already about 100 people signing up and joining this event. So that's a lot of music for these gentlemen to go through and listen. Now, I know that they're not all going to get 100 submissions. Okay, so you kind of spread those out probably about equally. They'll each get about 20 submissions to listen. So it's not an overwhelming amount of submissions, but I don't want it to turn into where there's going to be, maybe 200 people showing up for this thing, and that number starts to skyrocket to the point where they feel like, oh my gosh, I've got like real homework I got to do now. We don't want them to feel overwhelmed with any of this kind of stuff. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to cap basically from starting today, really just 20 more Virtual Plus tickets. So if you do want to get your virtual ticket or Virtual Plus ticket, you actually can do that by clicking on the link in the description box of this video. Right now, the virtual basic ticket is 99 bucks. If you want to get that Virtual Plus ticket where you can submit your library to the library CEOs as well, your music to the library CEOs as well, that's an optional upgrade. So it's basically another 50 bucks on top of it. So about 150 bucks, you get a Virtual Plus ticket. And again, you don't have to join us live to submit your music to these library CEOs. You're going to basically just get emailed a private submission link, which is only for you, and you're not allowed to share it with anybody else. And also the link to stream the entire event, that's also just for you. So that's not able, you're not allowed to share that either. But basically you can just enjoy this entire event straight from your home, for the comfort of your home, anytime essentially you want to. And then you'll have about a week and a half to submit your music to any one of these library CEOs that you would like to. So you get to watch our panel. This is where we're going to have that cool panel where they basically get up in front of all of us and answer our questions. I'm going to start with asking some of the important questions I feel, but it's 2 hours long. We're going to have plenty of time to get to all of your guys. Well, I should say everybody in the room who has questions. You guys will definitely have all your questions answered. And I think we'll have an extra time for those of you that are going to be joining us virtually to get some of your questions in as well. So that's going to be a cool thing. What else we do? We're going to do some feedback. I'll start the first day off doing a little bit of feedback for some of you guys that had a premium or a VIP ticket. Those are also sold out and gone. So we're not making any of those available anymore. But we definitely have about, I think, 6 or 7 of you guys that are going to want to get some live feedback from me in person in the room. So that's going to be really cool. And don't worry, I'm not going to bite. I'm going to be very positive and constructive with my feedback. I'm not going to just tear apart people's music and any of that kind of stuff. And by the way, those of you that did submit your music and you're going to be there in person, Bravo to you. That takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts to get live feedback in person, especially with other people in the room and all of you guys watching live. So I'm going to basically first just say you guys are very courageous, probably more courageous than I am, especially the early parts of my career. I don't think I ever would have done something like that. I would have been too chicken. So you guys are very, very courageous, and I think that's a really cool thing. So that'd be really cool. And then we're going to have Mike Giannotto, who's one of the CEOs. He's going to be doing some guest speaking. As I said before, Trevor's going to do some guest speaking. We've got AJ Gundel of Future Hits. He's going to be speaking with us virtually. He can't make it in person. He won't be making it in person, but he'll definitely be there through a live Zoom chat with us first thing on Sunday morning. So that'll be cool. He's going to talk to us a lot about vocals. And I've been telling you guys this year, vocals are becoming more and more relevant. And now as the AI stuff is coming on board, even more relevant than ever. So AJ is definitely a guy that we want to go pick his brain in terms of what vocals are licensable, what vocals aren't so licensable, all that kind of cool stuff. And we're also going to be doing some cool networking break. Now, I know for those of you guys that are joining virtually, this is not going to be as relevant for you. I mean, you obviously can have access to a live chat feature, which we'll have there. You can feel free to network with each other in the live chat. But of course, that's kind of one of the benefits of people who are going to be coming in person. So that'll be a really fun thing for us to do. And let's see what else. If you guys have any questions about the event, put them in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them. Like I said before, part of why I'm doing a live stream today, partially to let you guys know that, you can still get your virtual tickets if you'd want to, and there's going to be a limit on them. But also I am building up my speaking abilities right now, because I know that my voice tends to start to give out, because I don't talk a lot, even though you guys probably, your interaction with me, you're just hearing me talk all the time. So you're thinking, well, Jesse just talks all the time. In my regular life, I actually don't. Most of my talking is here, through my videos and through what I do for my work. But I'm not a big talker, actually. So my voice doesn't have this long-term sort of whatever you call it. It's just not in shape right now. So I noticed when I did a pro feedback session just this last Saturday, in just an hour, and it's not a long time. And at the end of the hour, it was like, oh my gosh, I can feel my voice starting to give out a little bit. I think it's kind of my vocal fry and how my voice just works naturally. So I can already kind of feel it now, but I know that this is sort of going into the gym. So I want to kind of just push through this a little bit and not overdo it where I lose my voice, but basically just every day or every couple of days, I might do these long kind of streams with you guys. And just kind of sort of get that muscle work and whatever it is in there so that I feel a little bit more prepared for this event coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited for it, guys. A little bit nervous, of course. It's weird. The last 2 nights in a row, I've had these dreams about it. Like the first night, it was exciting. The first night I had a dream about it. It was awesome. I was actually visualizing meeting a lot of you guys that I've interacted with, emailed and on the platforms and all that kind of stuff. But nobody's ever met really in person. And so it was a really exciting, cool, it felt like a reunion, but it was, weird that I never met you guys, but you were there in person. So that was cool. Last night, though, had another dream about it. And this one was where I actually accidentally planned the event while I was working another gig. So I'm at this other gig, and it's a gig I haven't done in years. I was basically doing video work for like a corporate seminar. So I'm just sitting there working this camera for somebody else's event. And I realized, oh shit, it's like 11 a.m. I got to get to my event. And I realized that I double booked myself, and I didn't even have a key to get into the room at the event, the meeting room where we're going to go. So it was like one of these just nightmares where I'm like, I'm going to just piss off everybody today. Nobody's going to be happy with me. How did I not just see this, right? More of a nightmare scenario. So I'm sure as the event gets closer and closer, I'll probably be having all those different types of dreams and whatever premonitions about it. But I feel generally fine about things. Things will work out great. I have a lot of backup plans in case technology fails, in case the internet fails. I have a lot of sort of whatever, just I'm hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. So I think we're going to be fine no matter what happens. And again, it's just really more about creating a physical, awesome, cool meeting space for us all to get together, talk to each other, kind of get motivated, get educated, of course, about what's happening, all the changes. And for a lot of you guys, I know it's about, making connections, connecting with each other, connecting with me, and then, of course, making connections with these library CEOs that could potentially be your next sort of partner in this endeavor and start getting you guys some amazing placements. That's obviously the hope of this event. That's really what I would really consider it a success if I start hearing people talking about the fact that they, met somebody at the event, and now they've become kind of like lifelong friends with that person, and they're kind of communicating on a regular basis, and they feel more empowered, and they feel like they're much more part of a community, or maybe they're starting to collaborate and getting more music into more libraries as a result of that. That's one other benefit here. But of course, if I hear from some of you guys or from some of the library owners saying like, "Hey, I got some tracks from one of your Sync Up attendees, and it's amazing stuff, and we're getting some great placements with their music," or if I hear that from some of you guys, that's going to really just make my heart sing. I'm going to feel like, okay, that's really what this was about. It was just about sort of creating a little bit more of a, like a realistic pathway to start making some realistic relationships with all this AI stuff that's coming on board. What I'm the biggest thing that I think is going to insulate us from, this AI technology is human connections. And that's one bit of advice that I think I've given you guys from the very beginning of my channel that still stands today, which is directly communicating and partnering with production music libraries, not going through middleman, not going through somebody else that can shop your music for you. And one common issue with these stock music libraries is just that there's so many composers submitting to them, and they don't necessarily have direct communication with a lot or all, obviously, of their submitting composers. So when the AI stuff starts to come online, do they have the sort of feeling of, hey, I know Joe's the guy that submits all of our rock music, I really should talk to him before we allow AI music to come and train off of his music? I didn't see that necessarily with the Pond5 situation. I saw them seeing an opportunity, of course, to get money in their composers' pockets and in their pockets. And there was just this very immediate decision. We're just going to do this, right? You can opt out, you can take your music out, but we're just going to do it now. And it's already starting to happen. So production music libraries, if you have a direct relationship and they know you and you guys talk on the phone and you guys email constantly, they know that there's a heart rate behind that music that they've licensed, right? Or that they've distributed from you. They know there's a person. They might know a little bit about your personal life, and that you have a family, and that you've got a mortgage, and you've got a day job or whatever. So there's just at least that extra human consideration before disruptive technology gets adopted by a company, if that makes sense. So I'm not trying to throw shade at stock music libraries. It's just their business model. That's just how their business model works. It's profitable. It's all voluntary. People that submit their music to them, totally voluntary. They are free to take it out, right? A lot of them are non-exclusive as well. So you can definitely just kind of pick and choose, multiple places you want to go. So it's not like a negative thing, but it's just that's that business model, and that's what kind of comes with it. There's some positives to it. There's some negatives to it. There's also negatives to our side of it as well, right? So, but I think those human connections, that's really what's going to insulate us from a lot of this kind of common AI music that's going to kind of flood the world very soon, and have people going, do I have to pay for this human created piece of content, or should I just go get the AI one? If there's no human relationship in the equation, it's just all about cost efficiency, right? That's really where a lot of this stuff kind of is going to go. And I know that's going to affect us anyways, even though we have human relationships. But I do think that that's definitely going to be one stumbling block, right? That's going to be one sort of extra hurdle that an AI technology is going to have to get over in order to disrupt us even more. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Is the chat broken, or are you guys just being quiet today? But we got 53 of you guys watching. That's really cool. I don't know if I've seen 53 on my channel in a long time. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Leave a like if you haven't already. That would be really helpful. I also want to know how many of you guys that are watching already are coming to Sync Up. And if you are, let me know in the chat right now, in person or virtually. So let me know if how many of you guys that are already watching right now already got your ticket, if you're coming in person or if you're coming virtually. I'd like to just kind of get a feel for how many of you guys are already sort of involved with this. And while we wait for that, I do have a couple of comments, questions. Let's see if I can get through them. NBA Live, can you review my beats? I'm going to send them out to Music Secret Libraries tomorrow for the first time. I do offer feedback, but I can't do it by tomorrow. So if you want to get feedback from me, check out my Pro Feedback service. You can just go to profeedback.me. And it's my monthly subscription-based service where you can get feedback from me in a live Zoom once a month option. But we also have other really highly qualified library CEOs, including two of the guys that are actually going to be at Sync Up, and highly qualified and professional sync licensing producers that can review your music quicker than waiting for my monthly live review. So that's definitely how you can do that. But sorry, I can't do it by tomorrow, but I wish you all the best if you're going to send out your music. I hope you get some responses and hopefully maybe an acceptance. That'd be cool. Harry T is asking, would you say library music can make a full-time living? I have 20 tracks with Universal, not sure what my next move should be. Yes, it is definitely a full-time living potential. Not easy though. Okay, so and what does full-time living mean? Uh, Subjectively, right? So it depends on what your cost of living is. So if your cost of living is $80,000 a year, it's going to take you quite a long time to potentially get up to that level with TV film sync licensing. It can definitely be done, and I know that it's possible, but it's not going to come quick. And I would say the more realistic level of what I call maybe full-time income, it might not be for everybody, is 20,000 to 50,000 a year. I do think that that is a much more realistic number in terms of following the trajectory, at least that I took in the TV film sync licensing business. Now, 50,000 is not your cap. Okay. So I'm not saying that that's the most you can ever make. You can't get any more. No, you can get a lot more than that. It's definitely very, very possible. In fact, I've interviewed people on my very channel that are making over six figures per year. A lot of it comes down to having the right kind of placements, basically jingles, theme placements, and it's always a couple. Like you don't need a lot of those kind of placements to sort of rack up those huge royalty fees. So a lot of times it comes down to just being at the right place at the right time with the right music library. So there's amazing opportunities, amazing potential, but it's going to be something that's kind of going to take obviously multiple years to get to. So depending on your cost of living, depending on where you live, depending how soon you need that money to kind of start to pay for your bills, that's where all that subjective value kind of gets thrown into the equation. So it is possible. It's not easy. It's not going to come quick, and it doesn't happen for everybody. So I think I've made that point clear many times here on my channel that this is not for everybody. And I think I've even, one of my first videos I ever put out on my YouTube channel is like, I think it was like 3 to 5% of my students will actually succeed at this. And I think that still holds true today. Most people that get involved with this are excited about it for about 6 months, maybe about a year, maybe two if they're like super, super pumped. But what I see very quickly is people drop off, right? They see that like it turns from an excitement, a sort of opportunity they see, and they're like, oh yeah, I could definitely see myself doing this, to it turns into a grind, right? And it is a grind because you're just constantly creating new music, right? That's why you do need to be in love with the craft of making music. If you're not in love with making music, waiting for those paychecks just takes way too damn long in this industry. That is the truth. So you have to first and foremost be in it for the love of creating music and having the chance to monetize your music. That's really got to be what fuels your tank for the first couple of years of this business. You will see, as you stick with the right companies, making the right kinds of licensable music, you'll see your income and your opportunities expand. But it's a 2 to 5 year trajectory to start to make some income that starts to look like it can support you on at least a part-time basis in the beginning and eventually in a full-time basis. So if you're in it to be a millionaire, you can find other things to go do. Like go get into real estate or maybe cryptocurrencies, or I don't know, get into something else that has a lot more money moving around. If you're in it for the money, I'm just this is not for millionaires, right? This is not one of these kind of opportunities that's going to get you there. This is really more about finding a way that really makes some, I think it's some significant amounts of income, and it can be reliable and it can be passive, of course, if you get those royalties. I haven't been very active at all in putting out new music with my library partners for the last 2 or 3 years now. And I still, every quarter, we just got our BMI royalties. My royalties have been staying about the same. Sometimes I even grow, actually. So I haven't seen any drop off yet. I know at some point they probably will as my catalog gets a little bit older. But, there's cool potential for things that just kind of passively keep coming into your bank account every single quarter, as long as that music is still being relevant, still getting aired, still getting new placements. And a lot of my catalog still is. So there's still that amazing potential as well. But I can't say, yes, you'll definitely make this amount if you work this hard, if you make this many tracks, if you partner with these specific libraries. That's what's really kind of frustrating from my side of things, is that I want to give you guys that kind of clarity and that very obvious pathway forward. But it's just impossible. There's too many variables. I can't tell you exactly what things are going to do, what people are going to like, what they're going to place. All of that's completely out of my control. So I try to just give you guys a realistic, I guess, expectation of what could potentially happen, but I also don't want you guys to feel limited by that. That's why I don't want to always just say this specific number or this specific, time frame, because I've had students that within a month earned, one specific student I always think of, he, within his first month of getting into sync licensing, landed a serial commercial for, I think it was like $20,000 or $25,000 sync fee, right? Just right off the bat, jumped right in. And I think he landed a couple other really big projects very soon after. And he was like brand new. Now his mindset though, it blew me away. He was in this kind of like, I will succeed at this, and this is my industry. I'm going to dominate this. He just kind of came into this business just with this like winner, I can do this kind of mindset and mentality, which is very, very, very important, if not crucial. And I always wonder how much of his success early on was just due to the fact that he just presented himself that way to libraries and just said, oh yeah, I'm your guy. I'm going to definitely get this gig, and I'm going to, whatever. So that is possible. And I've also seen many students that wallow in this industry for many years. I've shared some of the stories on my channel where one of the members, I can't remember the specifics, but it was like 5 years or something he'd been at it, and I think he made like $2,000 total after 5 years of being in this business. And it's like, there are those scenarios as well. There are those situations where it's like, when should you just throw in the towel and realize, this is just not working out. I shouldn't do this anymore. I can give you my 2 cents. I can give you what I think maybe can improve and help your situation. But I'm not in your shoes, right? I don't have your bills. I don't have your family. I don't have your mortgage or your rent. So I don't know what's kind of the stressors that are going on in your life in terms of what decisions you should be making for yourself. You ultimately have to make that decision for yourself. So I do my best, but at the end of the day, we're kind of our own man, woman in our own castle, right? And we have to kind of make our decisions for ourselves. So let's see. Ken, you'll be there in person. Awesome. Wicked Melodies, you'll be there in person. Awesome. Sync agencies might be a better place to spend my time. Have library music fill in the gaps. Yeah, see, the thing with sync agents is that they're not going to be having as many potential opportunities, I don't think, simultaneously. So a sync agent could be great if you're an artist that's like, you know what, I'm really trying to build a fan base, get my social media up there. I want to tour, I want to sell records, I want to stream, I want to do merch, whatever, super chats. Yeah. If that's really where your focus is, then a sync agent would be probably your best bet, because you can basically just say, hey, can you just represent my music to the sync world? And if you get a placement, send me some notification about it and we'll talk about it. That'd be really cool. It's kind of something where you can just like offload that into somebody else who's just primarily focused on that. And it's sort of an added bonus. Like, hey, if you get a placement, more exposure, more money, cool. Libraries, it's not that at all. For libraries, you pretty much are making music specifically for the TV film sync licensing business, right? That's why some producers, this doesn't work out at all, because they want to just create their own original artist music. And hey, all power to you. If that's what you want to do, go do that. But for me, I love the idea that I could basically not have to guess like what music is going to get viral, right? What music is going to land well with the public and all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of that uncertainty and anxiety when you start just releasing original music. And how many original artists are throwing out music and getting nowhere with it, right? Getting no listens, no streams, no attention. Some of it's pretty good. It's just anybody can do that now. So finding, creating your own little network of people and fan base is just, it's, in some ways you have more access to it, but in some ways it's actually even harder these days. So TV film sync licensing allows us to kind of get out of that entire rat race and just go directly into an industry where we can say, hey, what do you guys want, right? What kind of music do your clients need for their reality TV shows or their car commercials or their sports programming or whatever they're doing, right? And just to be able to directly ask your clients what they're looking for, it's just, to me, it's been like just this amazing, powerful way to take my musical talents and gifts and steer them directly at a useful, licensable side of the industry that gets me income and pays me, right? And I feel valued because of that, because it's like, you gave me a gig, you gave me instructions, and I nailed it, right? I listened, I read the brief, I listened to the reference tracks, I took my musical skills and talent and knowledge and ears and all that kind of stuff, and I channeled it into this really useful direction. And now I've got this really cool placement that I know maybe tens of thousands or maybe even millions of people have heard and enjoyed. And I know that it made the client happy and it made the library happy. It's just this cool, rewarding feeling. And it's just kind of taking away a lot of this uncertainty that comes with the artist world. So that's at least what was really appealing for me about TV film sync licensing. And I'm kind of getting off the original question there. But yeah, for me, sync agents are really better for artists that are trying to go that direction. Libraries are more for producers that really want to focus mostly, or at least a good chunk of your catalog, you want to focus on TV film sync licensing, if that makes sense. All right. Rob Green, you're coming virtually. All right, man. Awesome. For those of you that aren't sure if you're going to be getting a ticket or not, if you guys have any questions about what potentially is included or what you'd like to see or what would make the difference for you in terms of, well, if you did this at the event, I would definitely get a ticket put that in the chat box. That would really be helpful for me, because I did a lot of back and forth with you guys over the last few months, kind of putting out a lot of polls on my YouTube channel and also in Sync Academy, just asking you guys essentially, I don't want to just throw up an event just for my own ego or something like that. Like, that's kind of a waste of time. I really want this to be something that you're like, damn, like this really pierced through some of the sort of questions I've had about this business. It really helped me see behind the curtain, like I said before, get me better access to some of these library CEOs. Like, if there's something about this that you feel would just take it up to 10, don't be shy about that. I am open to feedback and all that kind of stuff. Of course, we're only a couple of weeks away, so we'll see how much we can change and alter and add to this event at this point. But I really want to make sure that when you guys participate in this, whether it's in person or virtually, you come away with it going, that was the best damn online event or best damn in-person sync event I've ever been to, or maybe it's the first one you've ever been to, but hopefully you just walk away from it going, that was definitely a great use of my money, my time, my energy. I would love to do that again. That's kind of where I want this to land at the end of it. Now, I can't make any promises as to if we'll do this again or, how it'll get done. I will say that one thing I've already learned already, you learn obviously when you do new things, of course. And so planning an in-person event, this is my first time ever doing it. I will say that I probably won't do a hotel venue again. I'm very grateful for the hotel that we have. And by the way, I'm not going to announce that. If you guys have an in-person ticket, you guys know where we're going to be at. They've been accommodating in many ways, but I didn't realize how much hotels really put you on the hook for making sure that you guarantee how many people show up, book a room, and how much they sort of nickel and dime you on the meeting necessities. I mean, I was planning on actually renting some of the equipment, like the actual just audio-visual equipment that we're going to need for the room. And then I saw they sent me the list of what they're going to charge for it. And I was like, no thanks, Amazon.com, here we come. And I'm buying everything, like literally every piece, every cable. The only thing I'm not buying is a podium, and luckily they're going to supply that for free, so thank you guys. But like literally everything else I could potentially need for this event, like wow. What they charge is ungodly. I can't believe that they charge that much. Not to mention just like an internet connection fee. I'll tell you guys at the event. If you guys show up in person or virtually, I'll share with you guys some of those numbers, because they are just, I can't believe that this is what they charge. Anyways, so even though this first event will be very convenient because everybody that shows up, you'll be able to sleep in the hotel, eat at the hotel, and literally go to the event in the same building. And it's literally so close to the LAX, you can walk to it. So talk about convenience. It is going to be the most convenient location we can possibly get. So that's kind of why we're doing it here, because I wanted to make it very easy for you guys that are going to show up in person. But I think if we do this again in future years, and whether or not we do it again in LA or another city, I don't really know. I think what we're going to do is just do it in a sort of standalone location that's not attached to a hotel. We'll just book that room, meeting space, whatever it's going to be. And then we'll try to make it sure that it's very close to a couple of hotel options so that you guys can hopefully walk there. Hopefully you wouldn't have to Uber or taxi there. But I'm realizing that's just one of these points for me. I'm like, it's too much. It's too much. I was actually stressing because I'm like, not enough people have booked their hotel room, and they're going to charge me if I don't get enough people. But I'm like, why am I getting charged for bringing the hotel business? To me, the whole thing was backwards. You know what it reminded me of? Some of you guys that have lived in LA and had bands, maybe you can relate to this. I had a band in 2006. It was the one that actually got signed to Tyrese Gibson's production music label. We used to play in Hollywood all the time, and they would charge you. The promoters you would have to pay like $500, and they'd give you some tickets, and they'd say, all right, well, here's your tickets. You charge whatever you want to your fan base, and if you make more than 500, you've got profit. Have at it. Well, we didn't have a fan base, and we had a couple of friends that would show up to our events, but we were always negative, every single one. And they were doing this to every single band that would play, and it was like, wow, how backwards is this that we're lugging all our gear to these venues, and we're double parking, and we're getting yelled at by all the promoters, and we're getting yelled at by the audio guys, and we've set up all of our crap, and we do our sound check, and we perform, and we're giving like our live performance and live entertainment to this venue and getting people to come and drink and all that kind of stuff. And what do we get for it? Well, we're in the whole $300 for this one, right? So it just always felt like this backwards, like, why are we doing this? Well, because bands always wanted to play in Hollywood venues. They always felt like, well, we're going to go play at the Troubadour or wherever it is. I don't even think the Troubadour charged us. I don't want to throw shade at them, but there were a lot of venues in there, in Hollywood that were definitely charging. It wasn't the venues, it was the promoters essentially that were doing that. So this hotel situation reminded me of the same thing. I'm like, why am I paying and being punished almost for bringing you business? Like, it shouldn't be the other way around. You guys should be really grateful that I'm, an unpaid employee essentially of the hotel, giving you guys people to come stay at your hotel, right? That to me is, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm just kind of bitching right now. I'll get off this subject, but I think that's what we'll do maybe moving forward is we'll probably just have a sort of neutral event again if we do it. If you guys dig it, if you guys want to come back and do it again, or stream it again live, I think that would be what we do moving forward. All right, let's get back to the chat. I've neglected you guys. Carl, you've been on the fence about going with royalty-free, non-exclusive approach versus an exclusive approach. I can see all problems that can exist if the same song is in both. Any thoughts? Yeah, and right now, Carl, my issue is not even so much thinking about exclusive versus non-exclusive, but if you're not familiar, AI models are training off of music in royalty-free sites now. Pond5 and Audio Jungle are the first two to do it. It would not be a surprise to me if you hear in the next couple weeks, maybe months, that a lot of these other royalty-free stock music library websites are allowing AI models to train off of your music. I'm not here to tell anybody what they should or should not do with their music, but I do want to make sure that you guys are clear on what that means, okay? That means short-term income. It means they're going to probably pay you out for the data sets that these AI models get from your music. But what do you think those AI models are trying to do? Like, they're just trying to learn music for their own health? Like, I don't, just for fun, just to see if they can do it. These are going to be commercial products at some point. What are they going to produce? What are they going to produce it for? I don't know. I have no idea, but I do know that in that kind of a world, if there's no personal relationship, which, unfortunately for a lot of stock music library royalty-free sites, there's not a lot. It's basically you just click on a button, upload your music, include your metadata or include your whatever you need to do, and send it off to them. And there's no human interaction. Well, a lot of times when it's kind of like a robotic relationship, well, when another cheaper, more efficient, faster robot, like an AI model comes on board, it can just take over, right? It can just replace things that are like, well, there's really no human interaction here anyways. Why don't we just sort of create a new thing? So I see that happening. I don't know. It's getting harder and harder for me to even think that going in the stock music licensing direction makes any sense anymore. I mean, I've said that, like, you could do it alongside TV film sync licensing in terms of if you have some rejected tracks, maybe you throw it into some royalty free sites so that at least you make some money. That's better than it sitting on your hard drive for sure. But at this point, I don't know. I'm not ready to make like a for sure this is what I recommend, but I don't know. That's kind of the writing on the wall I'm seeing, is that basically it's the royalty free stock licensing sites that are sort of giving these AI models first access to all the music to train off of, and potentially replace every single human composer on all those I mean, how do we not like address that? How do we not just like sort of be honest about that? That's just a possibility. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, and I can't tell you if or when it's going to happen. I don't have any access like that, or I don't have any notes like that. But this is definitely happening, right? There's definitely AI models training off of that music. So that's just kind of the big thing I'm looking at in terms of if you want a long-term career, maybe that's the direction you might want to second guess on. It might be short-term money for sure. The data sets are already paying people out, and some of them are pretty significant. So I think short-term money, yes, that's there. And that's where I can't tell people that's a wrong thing to do, because again, maybe you need money this month because you've got kids, you've got a wife, you've got a house, you've got bills to pay, and you're not really so worried about like if you're going to be making money in like 5 or 10 years. Maybe you're just like, I just need some money now. I can respect that. I can totally understand that being in a pinch or needing some income or whatever like that. It's your music. Like, I'm not somebody that tells people, like, I'm very much kind of like libertarian that way. Like, I don't, the idea of us unionizing and telling people what they can and can't do with their music, I'm not like a big fan of that, only because that's kind of what happened. I don't know if you guys remember. It was that whole situation with Discovery. No, it was with Netflix. A couple years ago, Netflix, this big news story broke where they said they only wanted to pay upfront fees and they didn't want to do any back-end royalties. And there was a big chunk of composers that were like, we need to boycott them and not send music to Netflix, and we deserve royalties and this and that. And I'm sitting there going like, well, if I had an opportunity to potentially make $3,000 per track or something like that off of sorry, 1 second, guys. This is a call I keep getting. I want to make sure that's not something I should be ignoring. All right, not sure if you guys heard that. I tried to turn the volume down, but anyways, got to go in just a few minutes. I got somebody here coming that I need to talk to, and we're almost coming up to, what are we at? Oh, almost an hour, 55 minutes. So that's kind of cool. And my voice isn't giving out. This is really exciting. I'm not like dying right now. This is really good. I think it's working, guys. I think I'm going to have a voice by the time we do this. So that's going to be cool. Anywho, back to the sort of Netflix thing. You know, if I had an opportunity to submit music and get paid 3 to 5 grand per track, maybe no royalties, sometimes I might say yes to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I've got bills to pay. I've got a family to feed now. You know, maybe I don't get the royalties, but you know, 3 to 5 grand might be more than I ever would have gotten from a track that got a tiny little placement with tiny little royalties, right? So I don't know. My thing is kind of like we need to all sort of be on our own wavelength in terms of deciding how we want to, you know, go about our sync licensing career. So I don't know. That's just where I'm at. I'm open to be convinced. Of course, I can have some conversations with you guys, but I even think just realistically, anything creating like a what do you call it? Like a union for all production music library composers or stock licensing composers. I just see it's very unlikely for us to even get something like that together. So I just don't know if that's something we should be spending a lot of time in terms of how we solve this problem. So let's see. Would I be able to get a one-on-one chat with me? Right now, I'm not doing any consultations. Of course, if you're there in person at the event, we definitely will be talking. We're going to have some great interactions, and we're going to have some networking time. So that's obviously one. But I don't do any personal one-on-one consultations right now. I just don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. I got 2 kids now. I got a very, very demanding schedule with kids. Those of you guys that have kids know about that. So no, I don't do any personal stuff like that. You can email me anytime, though, jesse@syncmymusic.com. If I can help, you know, in a reasonable way, I'll be happy to do that or point you in the direction of some resources that might actually help. But no, I don't do any one-on-one consultations. Sorry about that. All right, guys. Well, that's where I'm going to leave on this one because I'm constantly now distracted by thinking that somebody's going to show up at my doorstep any second now. So I feel like that is not good for you. Not a nice thing to do to you guys. So I'm sorry for that. So last pitch before we go. Again, Sync Up is coming up 2 weeks from now, June 3rd and 4th. It's a Saturday and a Sunday. No more in-person tickets. We just have virtual tickets. Okay. So you can come to the event page, click on the link below in the description box. We now only have 20 Virtual Plus tickets that are available. So those are the tickets that will allow you to submit your music to these library CEOs and potentially get accepted by them and have a guarantee that they will listen to your music. I know many of you guys have submitted your music to libraries and you're like, I don't know if they're going to actually listen to my music. These guys will. I've actually contracted them to do that. I'm paying them to be a part of this event. And in their speaking agreement, I've said, you will listen to the music that gets sent to you guys through the stream, through the link that comes through the Sync Up event. So you guys will be emailed that link and you can submit your music to any library CEO you'd like to and stream the entire event live from your home, from the comfort of your home, having your own cup of coffee, your own alcoholic beverage or whatever you want to enjoy it with, and enjoy us virtually if you'd like to. There will be a live chat so you can interact with and ask some questions. I will definitely field some questions from you guys there. But if you want to upgrade your virtual ticket to submit your music to these library CEOs, that's where you need to pay. It's the extra $49, and there's only 20 of those available. Okay, so just make sure that you do get those sooner than later, because once those 20 tickets are gone, I'm shutting off that, and it'll just be the sort of basic virtual ticket available. So get your tickets today. That link is in the description box below. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and helping me develop my voice and give you this little pitch for Sync Up. It's going to be a great event. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. So stay tuned. We're going to do more of these in the next couple of days and definitely leading up into the next week. We're going to have some more other awesome, amazing videos as well uploaded to my channel. So stay tuned. We got some cool stuff coming your way.